Now let's move on to some more numbers and more geek tests. We'll talk about the processor. Now, the Phoenix has a 600 megahertz processor, and the Impulse has an 800 megahertz processor, which doesn't really seem like that big of a difference. 800, 600, not really, a big difference there. The Phoenix, I believe, has an ARM 11 processor. The Impulse uses a Qualcomm processor. So for the people out there who are picky about that, those are the stats. So let's go to quadrant standard, and we'll see exactly what the difference is between these two processors, how they perform. Okay, so the Impulse scored, look at that, 1766. That is amazing. For a device, for a mid-range device, $30 with an 800 megahertz processor, that's amazing. Now, in this chart it has it on top, but again, I say this all the time, there are several devices that have come out since the Nexus 1 and the Droid X, so this would actually not be on top, it would be a little bit farther down, but still, if you just take the score, 1766, that's amazing. Now if we go over to the Phoenix, and we have 458. There you go. So definitely a huge difference there. You wouldn't think if you say 800 to 600 megahertz, you wouldn't think it would be that big of a difference, but it really is. Now, what really matters is in real-world usage, and if you watch my review of the LG Phoenix or the Optimus M, the Phoenix is an Optimus 1 device, and it's on every single US carrier. So on AT&T it's the Phoenix, but on Sprint it's the Optimus S, on T-Mobile it's the Optimus T, so on and so forth. So if you watch my reviews, I've consistently said that the Optimus 1 devices are the best mid-range devices on the market, because they are and they were at the time. I mean, performance is very smooth, pinch to zoom. If I go to the web browser, and we'll wait for a phone dog to load up, pinch to zoom is very smooth. Just in everyday usage, there's little to no lag. I've always been very impressed with the speeds of this phone. So that quadrant standard score doesn't really tell the whole story, because it would make you think that the phone just performs very poorly. But the reality is that this was, and probably still is, one of the best mid-range devices on the market. Now that being said, it's pretty obvious that the Impulse is going to do much better in everyday usage. Not only because it has that faster processor, not only because it scored a lot higher on the benchmark test, but also because it uses stock Android. Now, if you don't know, whenever a phone ships with a custom UI, like the Phoenix does, that custom UI on top of Android that's already running, it kind of tends to slow down a device. So when you have a phone with just stock Android, no changes, no customizations, it's automatically going to be much faster. So actually, let me load up the web browser while I'm talking about this web browser. And the stock Android web browser is not the best one, but we'll use it since it's what you get out of the box. So of course we have an ad right now, so that's going to mess everything up. Can I close that? Oh my gosh, it worked. Okay, so you can see it's pretty smooth. If you were to see that score and see the processor numbers, you'd think it'd probably be pathetic. But we even have Flash content loaded. This is with the plugins loaded, and I can easily pinch to zoom. And it's it's a little choppy, but really it's pretty smooth. So don't let the numbers fool you. The Phoenix does a great job. That being said, the Impulse just does much better. And you'll see that whenever I do the pinch to zoom test right now. Again, we also have the plugins loaded, the Flash, so we have the advertisements. And we'll wait for this to finish loading. Okay, so let's zoom in. And you can see that's just incredibly fast. For a mid-range device, for the price that it is, the processor, that speed and how smooth that is, that's not something that you see on, that I haven't seen on, I don't think, any other mid-range Android device. That's excellent. It's not perfect, obviously, as you can see. And I've had times when I'm using it just in daily use after testing it out for about a week. I had times whenever it did, catch just a little bit, but to have that, it's just, that's unheard of. So overall, you know, both phones are great mid-range devices, and the processors do great on both devices, but overall, the Impulse, it's just a lot better. Now, you know, it's not perfect. You are going to get lag sometimes, but for the most part, it was great, and you know, great performance for a mid-range device. It definitely exceeded my expectations. Okay, so lastly, let's flip them over and see what we get on the back. We'll talk about the camera, we'll talk about the battery, we'll talk about memory. The Impulse has a 5-megapixel camera with a flash. This camera also has an autofocus, and it captures HD video, 720p HD video. Now the Phoenix has a 3.2 megapixel camera. It also has an autofocus, but no flash, as you can see, and then it only captures VGA quality video. So this is really a no-brainer. The 5-megapixel wins out. It just has, you know, better quality, more features, the flash and the HD video capture. Now I do want to point out that the HD video capture on this device is atrocious. The video quality is nowhere near what HD should be, and the audio quality is pretty terrible. It's still better than what you'll get on the Phoenix, but it's just not as good as it should be. And then it's not the highest quality lens. So even though it is a 5-megapixel camera, and you're like, well, I've seen, you know, phones like the Droid Incredible with a 5-megapixel camera. It's not that good of a camera. The lens quality is not that great, but it's still better than the Phoenix. So if we go over to the gallery, and you may not be able to tell whenever I compare these pictures, but I'll just tell you basically, you know, how one is better over the other. Now, the only problem that I have had with the Impulse, and I've had this on a consistent basis, I've tried to, you know, fix it and change some settings. The Impulse, for some reason, has a problem with white balance. For some reason, every device kind of has this blue tint, and I have everything on automatic settings, so I haven't changed the white balance at all. It just is automatic. It should automatically catch it. And then I've also, you know, tried to change it and fix it. But as you can see, this is a picture of taken outside, and then here's the same picture taken with a Phoenix. And as you can see, this is proper color. The greens are green, the blues are blues, and the concrete is the color of concrete. Whereas on the Impulse, it has a blue shade to it. So that's the problem I've had with the Impulse. I can't quite get it to, you know, set the right white balance. I've had that problem with pictures and with video. Now, if we go just based on picture quality, now from far away, the quality looks pretty good. So if you just look at these two pictures, they both look about the same. But once you start zooming in and you get to the details, and I'll zoom in on this one, you can really see how the Impulse just has much better quality. You know, it still gets kind of grainy, but compared to the pixelation that occurs on the Phoenix, and I don't know, you may not be able to see that with the camera, but compared to the pixelation and the graininess that happens with the Phoenix, the Impulse just has a much better camera, and really, you know, I don't think anyone would question that. You see it 5-megapixel compared to 3.2 megapixel. The Impulse just has a much better camera, and then of course, it's nice having the HD video capture quality, even though, you know, it's not that great. While I'm back over here on the front, the Impulse also has an LED notification light. That's something that the Phoenix doesn't have, so that's one of those features that, I don't know, people go crazy over it. So if you like having the LED notification light, the Impulse has one. Now if I take off the battery cover here, we'll take a look at memory, battery. They both ship with a 2 gig card, so the Impulse, there's the card right there, you can see 2 gigs. And then on the Phoenix, here's a card and you can kind of see 2 gigs. And then they both support up to 32 gigs of additional memory with this card slot. Now both phones have a 1500 milliamp hour battery, and normally 4G devices are known for having terrible battery life, and so, you know, normally you would think that battery life is definitely going to be a lot better on the Phoenix. However, the Impulse actually has pretty good battery life. I think it's just because, you know, it's not a powerhouse device. You know, it has an 800 megahertz processor, uses stock Android, so battery life was actually pretty good. That being said, it wasn't as good as the Phoenix. You probably will have to carry a charger around with you just to be safe. I mean, depending on your usage habits, battery is something that's so subjective. You know, everybody has different lifestyles, so battery performance is going to be different for every single person. But for the most part, I would think that you probably will want to have a charger with you just to be safe. The Phoenix, on the Phoenix, I was able to get through a full day, but I had to charge it every night for sure, and then sometimes I couldn't get through a full day. So you're more likely to get through a full day on the Phoenix, but really both of them, you might want to have a charger just to be safe. But both have that same 1500 milliamp hour battery. Okay, so that's pretty much it with the Impulse and the Phoenix. Both $30. Both mid-range Android devices. Which one should you get? It's close, but I'm gonna go with the Impulse. It just has a couple of extra features that really set it apart. They don't set it apart as much as I would like for them to. The 4G isn't as spectacular as it should be. It wasn't as fast as what it should be, but again, you know, that could be different for everyone. The camera, you know, the lens quality wasn't quite as good as it should have been, but still, you know, everything compared to the Phoenix, it's still a better phone than having that larger display. It just makes everything a lot more enjoyable in everyday use. So there it is, Impulse, Phoenix. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to recommend the Impulse. Check it out at your local AT&T store. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about these two phones or any other phones, you can follow me on Twitter. My screen name is It's My Job to Know, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can. But thanks guys for watching. I'm Sydney, and I'll see you guys later.